Oh, the 9/11 conspiracy theory. Well, let me say, I guess, full disclosure here, I believe there was a conspiracy on 9/11. I believe the conspiracy originated with Al-Qaeda. That they carried it out. They were successful, by and large. I don't believe the theory that it was a plot of the United States government. Either the Bush administration or rogue elements within the government. I don't believe anything like that. You know, I suppose the reason I don't believe it stems primarily from my not sharing an assumption that many, not all, but many 9/11 conspiracy theorists hold. That assumption being that no one else could possibly pull off slamming our airplanes into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, attempting to slam it somewhere else, although it ends up crashed in a field in Pennsylvania, another airplane. I don't want to share the assumption that nobody else could do that but Americans. I mean, you hear the debate framed that way. Who else could do this? It had to be an inside job. You know, good old American know-how, good old American ingenuity. That's what pulled this off. You know, there's a lot of ethnocentrism going on there, some nationalism with this 9/11 conspiracy stuff. I think Middle Eastern people are perfectly capable of getting on the internet and checking out flight times, learning how to commandeer a plane once it's in the air and find a location to target. I think all of that's entirely within the realm of possibility for all nationalities, ethnic groups in the world. So I distrust the tendency to pat ourselves on our own back for our own tragedies and to assume that only we could do it. That strikes me as a narcissistic in a national scale. The other assumption I don't share, which I guess makes me accept the traditional notion that it was Al-Qaeda, I don't hold the assumption that America's involvement in the world is so benign at a minimum, or so benevolent at a maximum, that no one could possibly be angry with us. I particularly don't hold that our actions in the Middle East have been so kind and good that people couldn't possibly want to attack us, perhaps even kill themselves in the attempt. I mean, after all, we do happen to prop up that Saudi government that, well, you know, it's not democratic, it's despotic, it's engaged in rampant human rights violations. It chops people's heads off right in the public square. We do tend to prop them up, and I suspect that makes a lot of people a little angry, particularly Saudis who might want to live in a different kind of government than that. Oh, and then there's the billions of dollars that we send to Israel every year, that enables them to commit quite literally over 200,000 violations of the Geneva Convention every day. Every day. That's what they do. Over 200,000 violations. I bet you didn't know that, didn't you? No, you didn't. Do you know why? It's because our media isn't telling us. You can go look in the Geneva Conventions and you can find that it's a war crime to build settlements on occupied land, to transport your part of your population onto a land that you've conquered and occupy. That is a war crime. And there are over 200,000 Israelis in the West Bank who have made it their home. War crime. Paid for with your tax dollars, Americans. I think that might make some people angry. It might make them feel hopeless. It might make them want to attack us. Now, let's be clear. There's no justification for what happened on 9/11. No justification for that act of barbarity and terrorism. But the problem with the 9/11 conspiracy theories is that it doesn't allow us to engage in that kind of national introspection so that we don't end up asking ourselves questions like, are we really behaving well in the world? Could people really be ticked off at us with some legitimacy? No, you say. The 9/11 conspiracy theory, it avoids that kind of discussion. Instead, we end up talking about fires and the engineering of buildings and explosions and blah, 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 blah. When we should be asking ourselves, it seems to me, how should we behave in the world? How should we act differently? It may be sometimes, maybe a lot of the time, we shouldn't side with cruel governments because it's in our economic best interest. Maybe we should think, we might end up paying a price for that. Someone might hijack our planes and, slam them into our buildings.